Alright, welcome back to a brand new video of the Target Individual Program, Target Experience. New York Police Department, again, in a very subtle form of attack. Yeah, man, every day, it's just the same old shit. But what they're doing now, like I said, is that they will, sticking his finger in his ears. And I love it because I love sticking my fingers in my ears when I see these criminal stalkers out here also. Not a problem.
He said one to go down.
So, also, again, but sending me subliminal message about, staying by path. So they hijack my consciousness and have me looking at the couch, fixated on the couch. When I talk about those fixation drills, right, that's how I know. Not happening. And also being that the couch is all broken up too. So it could be, those type of, subliminals, right? There's always multiple, subliminal messages when it comes to certain things. Like I told Pam, she won't get a new couch because that's how she is. That couch will be sinking all the way down to the damn floor, and the thought of her getting a new couch won't happen. But she will do everything else though. Like I took my daughter to get her pupils measured, so with her prescription, so she can get new glasses. And Pam was supposed to bring the glasses frames for her new glasses because, under her insurance. And it's still there. Still there. She had the weekend to do it. She did not do it. She did not go at all. Right? So, yeah. Oh, see what I say? So why are they doing all of this, right? Because I talk about how there are times they will try to send me subliminal message about staying over by Pam. It's the same shit over and over. I keep telling them I don't fall for that shit anymore. Never did. I'm just literally was observing what it is that they were doing, and just to test them out to see what type of deception they were doing and manipulation they were doing. Right. So like I said, so if I had stayed the next day, right. Whenever time I walk towards the door, they would be using their sirens. Okay? And I started to realize that, and I told Pam, I said, you're being influenced in ways that you don't understand and you can't recognize. And I'm trying to help you to recognize to see what's going on, but, some people just, they just don't want to know because, again, whatever benefit they're getting out of it, I should say whatever little benefit they're getting out of it is the honey traps. And particularly as black people, when you look at our situation, right, you see how they manipulate women in such a way that I talk about this every now and then. There'll be a black woman that appears on the news who leaves her children in the house by themselves, very young children in the house by themselves, and go for weeks because she's dating the new man. And I keep saying, those men don't care. Those men are paid to create, or I should say, they aid in the trauma abuse of our women, right? Now for men, when they use honey traps for us, it's a little bit different. Right? No man, you'll never see a man leave his children in the house by themselves to go run off with some woman. It ain't happening. But they do it to women because women are easily influenced. And particularly when it comes to black women, I talk about the sexual innuendos, the racist sexual tropes that they do. Particularly, when it comes to Pam, like they'll stand out there with measuring tapes and shit like that. you know, and I keep telling them, listen, you know, and that don't bother me. And if it does, it's because they're engaging in emotional manipulation. But I quickly, you know, shut it down, right? Because I understand that this is how they are. This is what they do, and use emotional manipulation. And I told Pam this, and I said, listen, you need to be very careful because these people, they will set you up. And because it's done in the psychological realm, they're going to say, well, it's you, right? They, you know, it's one of the ways in which they avoid accountability or responsibility for what they're doing. Because if it's done psychologically, through psychological programming, through covert drugging, and so forth and so forth, you know. Because for me, like I said, when I was dating, I dated women with children, but you know, not more than one. I think actually I did one, and I never ever, you know what I'm saying? Like if we had a date, you know what I'm saying? At times, if no one could watch her, you know, a child, you know, we just do something else, you know, to include, you know what I'm saying? On the weekend, I don't have my son. You know, I used to date her. You know, I'll be like, okay, let's do something, you know, that, you know, us three we can do, you know? Not a problem. You know what I'm saying? But for the life of me, I would never go out with a woman with young children and she leaves her children at home by themselves. It would never happen. You're right. I'll be like, okay, well, you know, if you can't find a sitter, then either we reschedule, or if you want, you know, it's up to you. You know, we can go out someplace that's, you know, kids friendly, and we can have dinner. Everybody can have dinner. You know what I'm saying? And I've always done that. You know what I'm saying? So again, you know, for the life of me, I just, you know, not for the life of me, but, you know, I understand, like I said, how they create trauma within society, within people, particularly in the black community, particularly within black family. And then when that happens, right? When that happens, what do you think happens? That man that they are running around with, that they are ignoring their children for, that man will end up cheating on them. They will contract multiple STDs, right? And then all of a sudden they hate men. All of a sudden now they manipulate. They'll send some woman to friend them, closet lesbian or closet bisexual woman, or even use those men to, you know, who girlfriends might be bisexual, and will get them into situations where, you know, things will happen. All of a sudden now they're either too embarrassed to talk about it, or to, you know, to realize not aware to realize what's happening, and too embarrassed to talk about it. And those men will use that over their head. Those men, they will make videos, take pictures, and literally they will threaten to expose them and, you know, what it is that they do. You know, like I said, you know, these people are being used, being paid. They are being paid to engage in such behavior, right? And it's something that we just don't understand. We quite don't understand. I'll talk about this, right? Again, when you go and you read about, you know, women who have lesbian friends or bisexual friends, they always talk about how that these women do not respect their boundaries, and they will try to get them drunk and so forth and so forth. You know, there was a woman on YouTube who said, you know, she said, there's a reason why a lot of women take a girl trip together, because they go outside the country to engage in same-sex acts, or to, you know, to have threesomes and orgies, and then they go back to their husband or to their boyfriends or to their man, and to act as if nothing ever happened, right? You know, it is their secret life that they love to live. You know, you look at narcissistic people, they live a secret life, a double life, right? Because they want to act out their sexual fantasies, but they'll go to another country to do it and then come back as if, you know what I'm saying? You know, it's like, it's that saying, whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Excuse me. Right? There's a reason why there's that saying, right? You know what I'm saying? And, you know, it's like, well, you go to Vegas, you do whatever, you don't snitch. It stays in Vegas. It gives people an excuse to go to Vegas, cheat on their significant other, or do what have you, and come back as if nothing never happened, right? They'll talk about it. So again, it is conditioning people within the society to engage in certain behavior and not being honest about it. You know, it is how the society is moving, and you got to understand, particularly when it comes to the black community, what it do to us as black people, as black men and black women, you know, and how they are destroying the love that we have for each other. Every generation of young people that become adult, you know, that love is destroyed. Right. So now you're going to have a group of people going forward who are going to be highly susceptible to belief, who are going to be unable to love themselves in a way they should, and who are unable to love others the way that they should to have healthy relationships. You know what I'm saying? And it's all done strategically, purposeful, right, by white supremacists and white supremacy. So, you know, when we see, you see how they're, you know, gutting the voting rights. You know, they already, abolish affirmative action and so forth and so forth. Now the Voting Rights Act of '65 is being gutted, right? Then you have these Negropeans who are now talking about, oh, black people should vote Republican, right? You know what I'm saying? That is the trend that's starting to happen, and that would be the trend going forward. And I said, no, you don't vote Republican or Democrat. You vote Green. Vote the Green Party. Vote for candidates in the Green Party who are not, who have promised not to take corporate money, right? Who are about the work of the people, who are not wealthy, right? Who are intellectually honest, you know, who have some organization skills or what have you, and who also have some studies in politics, right? I work within, you know, the political sphere, whether it be within state, local states, you know, city or what have you. Vote for those people, but stop voting for wealthy people, and stop voting for these old ass, you know, repeat offenders, I should call them, you know, because they, you know, we vote for these people there in the 70s and 80s, we voted back into Congress, and they're still not doing anything, right? They're still not doing anything. You know, they are so solidified in their ego that they can't step down and let a next generation of younger politicians, you know what I'm saying, take the next step. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, some of them will retire at 90, which is ridiculous, okay? And I'm saying that, yeah, okay, fine. There's no term limit. There's no age limits, I should say, right? When it comes to congressional and senatorial elections. But when they reach a certain age, we don't need to be voting for them anymore. If their track record have shown that they have not done anything for the people in a decade, get rid of them. Get rid of them. Put young people in there. Put the young people that identify with your struggles. The young people that are willing to if they're progressive, that they are, center left and center right. Okay? If they're conservative, make sure that they're center. Right? Because that's the only way how you're going to find common grounds, is if you have center left and center right. If you have extreme left and extreme right, you're going to have a dysfunctional government. You know, so they've been upset because I've been posting a lot about China. And, you know, I post white Americans' experience in China, right? And I let the white Americans who go to China, who move to China, you can hear it from their own mouth, right? And when you see what the Chinese government have done, you know, lower the cost of living, where things are affordable, right? And even though in China you still have billionaires, okay, at least the Chinese government prevents these billionaires from becoming so greedy, with so much greed, that they neglect the responsibility of their nation and the people of their nation, right? So, you know, and a lot of these white Americans, they'll tell you that we've been told a lie. It's a lie. We've been told a lie. right? And how we've been brainwashing to believe in China is this and China is that, China is that. But, you know, they always say, thank goodness for YouTubers who show us what China really look like. It's like, you know, when I show speed, went to some countries in Africa, right? And, you know, you have white people, you know, like, oh, I didn't know Africa had this. I didn't know Africa. All we saw of Africa is, you know, poverty and starving children and starving people. Yeah, that's because the West wants you to believe that there isn't a better life out there. So if they get you believing that the best life you can have is in the West, but they're raising prices, they're engaging in mass unemployment because the company wants to make record profits, so they, you know, laying off their employees when they don't need to, right? Then, you know, you won't think that there is no other option out there. And I always talk about,
yeah, but you know what the price you have to pay to get what
you know, having good leadership. The West doesn't have good leadership, right? The West haven't had, particularly in America, they haven't had good leadership in a very long time. And that's what I said, it's going to be up to the people, but, you know, white people in particular have to get rid of that racist attitude and that racist mindset. Because if they continue to hold on to it, you know, it will be the death of America.
Yes, it is. Hello, sir.
Hey there. Excuse me, ma'am, that'd be $10, please.
Yeah, okay.
Hey man, you look at that, my brother. Jeez. 2 days in a row, huh?
It got crazy yesterday.
Yeah, well, you know.
I pulled up this article.
Huh?
I pulled up this article.
Did you read it?
Nah, I didn't read it. I just pulled
But
it.
oh, you found it though, right?
But I found that one. Couldn't find the other one.
You go to Amazon, you can get it on Amazon.
Please exit through the airport.
And always remember, right? Some of the people they call crazy, those are the ones you should be listening to.
Tears streamed down her face. The man extended his hand.
That's all right.
Everybody got his story.
You know, James Baldwin said, he said, what? If you was a black man, wake up every single day in America and you're not mad, something is wrong with you. Right? He says, if you wake up every day as a black man, all black woman, and you're not angry, something is wrong. You know what I'm saying? Whenever you find yourself well adjusted to a system that's corrupt, oppressive, right? Who has engaged in subverting the public and the minds of the people within the public, if you are well adjusted to that, then it's a compliment being called crazy. Okay? Because the people who are out there making a change and right, the people who are out there making the change and bringing knowledge to the people, they're going to always call them crazy.
People that's out there making changes for 10 years.
The people out there who are trying to make the change within the society for the betterment of the people, they always call them crazy. Right? I mean, they call Malcolm X crazy. They said Malcolm X was schizophrenic. Same thing with Dr. King. Yep. Yeah, I mean, you gotta think about it like this. When you look at the system, it lies, it manipulates, it deceives, right?
Right.
In every system that has corruption from the top, the people that speak the truth are the ones they're going to attack first. Because the reason why is because they have the majority of people brainwashed. So if somebody can open your eyes to the reality and the truth, and looking at the system for what it really is, right? Not for what they tell you it is, but for what it really is. Because Dr. Amos Wilson, he talks about the falsification of the African consciousness, right? Particularly in the system here in America. Yeah. So I was saying. So look. Let me give you an example, right? They get people believing that if you work hard, you can achieve anything. Remember that they always say that? Right. If you work hard, you can achieve everything, right? But when you look at the people who work the hardest in America, it's us. And you wanna know why? Because we're working 2 jobs, right? We're working 2 jobs, sometimes even 3 jobs. Right. We're working long hours, right? But our pay is lower than what it should be. Okay? But we still, in our minds, we tell our children, if you work hard, you can achieve whatever you achieve, right? But our parents work hard. They didn't achieve what they achieved. Now, that's not to say that it doesn't happen to anyone. Right. But it happens only to too few of us. You understand? Because when you look at the wealth gap, particularly in New York, here in New York, the average white family in New York, the average wealth is $200,000. For black people in New York, even say black family, like that. And I'm talking about working class family, right? It is under $14,000. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't tell my children that. I tell my children, I said, listen, I'm raising you guys to be honest, to understand what's going on, and they're going to come to you. Once they understand that they cannot manipulate you, that you know the truth, that you will always call them out on their bullshit. Like, you don't stay silent at all. I used to be like that. I don't ever stay silent when I see something that's important. Good night, folks. Bye. Good night.
How you doing?
All right. So, we have to learn to confront white people on their bullshit, and we cannot back down. We have to, because you see, their ability to lie to us and our ability to stay quiet just to get along, it's a power dynamic that only works in their favor. You understand? It's like when you go to the museum and you're looking at all these arts, right? The artifact they stole from Africa, and they have this exhibit, like the dude from Black Panther, right? And what he said, right? But then they're telling you that your ancestors from Africa didn't have civilization, didn't create nothing, right? So then why is their museum full of our ancestors' stuff? You know what I'm saying? But we don't say that to them. We don't say, well, listen, if our ancestors never created anything, why is your museum full of the shit that our ancestors created? Why? Right? So it's how they understand we are programmed. This is why they can do what they do. Don't be fooled that white people don't know exactly what it is that they do. And I'm gonna tell you how you know. When you go on social media and you see these little white children talking about how their parents are on the dinner table calling black people niggers and talking disparagingly against black people, right? It was a trend at one point, and then you don't see it anymore because their parents told them, if you continue to expose what it is we're saying at dinner table, you're being left out of the world. You know what I'm saying? So even your white coworkers, you might hang out with them, you might shake their head, you might go to lunch with them, what have you, right? but they're not living in your community, right? And if they are living in your community and they have children, they're not sending your children to the same community school that you're sending your children to. You understand? So you got to look at those minute things and understand why they do it. Because they don't want our children competing with their children. Our children is going to always have a disadvantage in this system, right? And the only one that can change the system is them. So why haven't they done that? Even in liberal cities like New York, why is it that New York school is still segregated? Right? Ask that question. Why is it that New York City school system is the most segregated in the nation and continue to be the most segregated in the nation year after year? Why don't they change it? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you even think about that?
Yeah, that's
No, right. What I'm saying is that, like, you see, what I'm saying is that the fact that they have us in a condition where we're always surviving. So people who's always surviving don't get enough time to think, to observe properly, right, and to think it with a more rational sense of mind. Because you're working, you're tired. You know what I'm saying? If you go on vacation, you're not going to Africa or some other places that where majority of black people. Do you know more black people go to Europe than they do to Africa and the Caribbean?
yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? So and the reason why, the book that I mentioned, the Black Skin White Mask by Fan Fanon, it tells you why. Black Skin White Mask, right? And yeah, Black Skin White Mask, right? And right. And so it goes. It tells you that within our subconscious mind, the majority of us have a love of Europe and everything that's European, right? We don't have that love for Africa. We don't have a love to go and visit nations that are black. We rather go to Europe. You know, we go to Paris. You know, see all these black people talking about going to Dubai. Now here's my thing. I'm like, okay, you a black person? Why are you going to Dubai? I don't care if you're wealthy or not. Why are you going to Dubai? In Dubai, they enslave African women, right? They engage in a whole bunch of pedophilia over there, right? But we go over there because it's the hot spot for white people. So we follow them and their destructive patterns and behavior. You know what I'm saying? But we don't understand the African mindset and who you as an African is supposed to be. Because everything that they are is antithetical to everything that you and your ancestors are. You understand? Everything they change, everything that's positive in Africa, they change it to negative and give it to us. And everything that's positive, they take and integrate it into their society, right? So there's a book called The Golden Stool with by a white missionary, right, in the 1800s, traveling across Africa when there was dividing of Africa. And he said that the British, the French, the Germans, the Portuguese recognized that Africa had a more superior social structure than Europe, right? He said that what the Europeans decided to do was take the best of Africa's social structure and was going to incorporate it in European social structure, and to take the worst of European social structure and incorporate it into the minds and the system of Africa. This is in the book that they wrote, that a white missionary wrote. And then he talks about indirect rule, right? How Europeans will get a figurehead, put him up as the leader, have him brutalize his people, right? Okay? Have that leader brutalize his people, and when his people are being brutalized, the white European comes in and saves the people, so the people end up hating the figurehead and loving the white colonial masters. It's called The Golden Stool.
The Golden
stool, the golden stool, right? There's another part. It's the golden stool and the Ashanti something, you know. But I'm telling you, that book is a blueprint. Yeah, that book is a blueprint to how Europeans created the mindset within Africans. Okay. Yeah. Hold on a sec. Sure. All right. It's by Ewan E. Smith. Ewan E. Smith. Black skin, white man.
Black skin.
Yeah. Oh, you stop. You get it.
This stop is Church Avenue and Wilson Avenue.
The gold, Evan Williams, the golden stool. Sure. All right, you see that? Yeah, just go to Amazon and just type the golden stool book. All right, my brother. Have a good night. All right, take care.
Listen. I'm not back to Monday.
Okay. Well, if I bump into you, you know, we'll chat it up. All right, later. Now, I don't know what it is about. I guess they want me to go back to making videos on my other phone, because whenever I take my phone out my pocket, my phone that has service, the New York Predator Department using their sirens. You know what I'm saying? But listen, you know, I don't fall into that that tactics or that manipulation aspect of what it is that they do, because they, you know, I'm gonna be like, what? Okay, I'm gonna use my phone to see what happens. Then what? No, my phone is there to answer any call that comes in that might be important. That's why I have this phone. You guys see, I was using this phone when I first got this phone. I was using this phone only to do my videos. All right, and so when people will call me, I couldn't answer. You know, so if I'm doing a video and you know, Pam called me because Alyssa is sick and I got to go to school to pick her up, I got to go to a school to get her. If I'm on my phone that has service, I'm recording. I usually don't answer, and I usually don't end the recording to call her back. Right? So it's the reason why I start using this phone too. But you know, anything that they do to try to make it seem like you're acting suspicious, because like I said, I'll study what it is that they've done to me and what they continue to do. How they're always trying to create some suspicious behavior, right? And let's say I do start acting suspicious. It is because of what it is that they're doing. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, like I said, man, you know, these people, the sick mindset that they have, right? The manipulative, deceptive tactics that they use. All right. When I talk about their junk science and their junk behavioral science, also is because they are creating certain types of behavior, and then, you know, it's like the pharmaceutical companies, right? Let me put it this way. It's the best way I can put it. What the pharmaceutical companies does when they want to market, or when they want to create a new profit avenue, or a new profit venue, right? They will create a symptoms, right, that, you know, you would normally, that we will exhibit every single day, or you know, let's say, like for example, you know, I think they said that, like grieving, for as an example. So if tragedy happens and you grieve longer than, you know, a month or two, then they want to put you on medication, right? Because now you have an issue, right? You know what I'm saying? So they're always creating new market or new avenues to increase their profit. Right? And then they pay these psychiatrists and psychologists, they pay them, literally pay them. Like I said, go and look at the percentage of psychologists and psychiatrists in America that are paid over $100,000 a year on top of, their practice, right? Some as far as much as $1 million, right? And you will see, we're talking about over 70% of psychologists and psychiatrists in America that are being paid by Big Pharma. Okay? So they have every incentive to always want to put you on some form of medication. And again, we got to understand what it is that they do. This is a capitalist society and system that the very few are the ones who are greatly benefiting from this system, while particularly within the black community and black people, while profiting off of us in other ways other than, let's say, employment, right? So again, when I talk about the business of poverty, right? And poverty is a business. It is engineered because they can end poverty in America. They just choose not to, because it is more profitable to make more people poor and to keep them in poverty than it is to give them jobs. And make no mistake that not everybody in the society is going to have a job. You're always going to have people who are going to be unemployed. Okay, there isn't enough jobs in America for everybody to find work. Look at China. China lifted 800 million of its people out of poverty. You think 800 million people in China have jobs? No. What China does is that within the government is through its national innovation, right, of investing in companies, in tech, educating their population. China graduate more people in STEM than the US, Europe combined, and India combined, right? But China introduced some form of capitalism because it knew that they had to create some sort of revenue, some sort of state revenue also. But what also China has done is put a curve on corruption. Because that's what good leadership does. When you have a plan to uplift your nation, we talk about China, right? Remember, China used to be cheap goods from China. It's this and that. Now China has, in terms of quality of goods, right, that they would send to the U.S. When you talk about clothing and products, right? Now a lot of companies in China are creating technology, right, and technological devices on par with us in the U.S. and Europe. Right, so now made in China has become a staple now. But before we say made in China, you would say, "Oh, that's cheap and it wouldn't last." Not anymore. Not anymore. Yeah, the sirens. Keep telling you, whenever I expose them, they'll do this. Yeah, man. Listen.
I need you to be quiet and sit down. Look out the window. Well, your bad picture is not going to be important.
All right, thank you for good night. Oh yeah. Look at the zombie. See what I tell you, how they be standing in the middle of the sidewalk? Look, 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 look. Straight up standing in the middle of the sidewalk. See how they turn around looking? Look, look, look. They turn around looking. Think about it. Okay, stick our finger in her ears. Do the same thing back too. I can tell you, I always tell the perp, right? Multi-ethnic targeting, what I call multi-ethnic targeting, right? And try to, they'll use other groups of people so that when you say, oh, you know, these people are targeting me. Wow, this person, look at that, they left their car window open. Yeah, hopefully nobody. Look, look, look. Oh yeah. You know, when I start whistling, is because it is, as I approach, getting ready to walk past them, they start doing hand signals, turn around, look at me. You know. Almost touching her nose, right? When I talk about that, right, how they will tap their nose, I started exposing that shit, and all of a sudden, you know, they'll put their hands by their nose now. So they're not really tapping their nose like how they used to. But, you know, it's the action, right? So they've already built in the conditioning and the, you know, the image, I would say, of that. So, you know, yeah. But anyhow, yeah. So it's funny, strange thing happened today. You know, Pam came home early. She got home very early, probably around like after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, she's like, "Oh, my job sent me home," and I'm like, "What?" So I was like, okay, because she was like, I was not feeling well, and you know, such and such. And then she asked me to rub some breedies on her back. I said, no, thank you. I'm not trying to have you accuse me of anything. So I'm definitely not doing that. All right. I like, you know, I keep telling you, whenever, you know, the manipulation, the psychological manipulation, the emotional manipulation it is constant. Right, and knowing how to. Yes, Kings. Right. You know, I'm just, you know, like I said, as a TI, you got to be very, very careful of what it is that they do. You know, they will always do things. If they cannot manipulate you like they used to, they're going to sure as hell try to find new ways in order to do it. All right. Just, you know, talk about coercive persuasion programming. It's all about what? Either to exploit, to profit, and to control. All right? And to discredit, particularly when it comes to the illegal microchipping of human beings. that they don't want people to know. So yeah, it is something that they do. And yeah, I got my head turned over there. You got a white woman over here, Caucasian female over here, while pacing back and forth. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, anyhow, you know, it is what they do. It is how I show you guys how they do it. And when they cannot manipulate you anymore, then you know, you take back some of your autonomy, and they don't want that. They want to be the ones to always to manipulate you, right? And so, like I said, you have to learn what it is that they've done to you, and try to reverse some of that conditioning. You're not going to be able to reverse all of it. You know, I'm not a professional. You're not a professional. But learning about these things, you know, particularly if you go and look up Margaret Sanger, not the eugenicist, but Margaret Sanger, who was at one point the world's most renowned expert on cults. And she there's a YouTube channel called I think it's called, I'm not sure what it's called, but Cult Expert, and then she's on there, she's talking about destructive cults and coercive persuasion programming and so forth. Read stuff about behavioral modification, particularly the dark side of it. You know, not so much but you should also read and listen to watch the positive effect of those things, but mostly the dark side of it, because that's how you're conditioned. You're conditioned with what is called dark psychological manipulation, right? And on top of that, also with technology that is classified, that is secretive, to manipulate our minds. So the effect of radio wave and microwave frequency weapons on the human body. They've done research on this since the 1950s going forward. What else? Dark NLP, right? Which is an offset of dark psychology. Dark NLP, or dark neurolinguistic programming, is creating anchors and triggers, right? Creating, causing trauma, and then creating an anchor, right? And trigger, so that they can always trigger you to emotionally manipulate you, or to manipulate your thought pattern, to create phobias and so forth and so forth. So understanding what it is that they do. It is the manipulative way of how they do things. And, you know, they'll have people in your community, you know, engaging in abusive behavior towards you because they have made them into abusers, right? Now, mind you, just because it's psychological, it does not mean that they're not abusers. They are most definitely abusers, okay? And they will try to project who they are onto you. So they'll try to call you an abuser, right? You know what I'm saying? So they will manipulate you in ways that you don't know, because you don't know it, because you're ignorant to it. So they will manipulate your emotions, your feelings, your thought pattern, your emotions, your thought patterns, your actions, and then will say, well, you know, it is your own fault, right? You know what I'm saying? But like I said, you know, you got to get educated, and you got to be able to explain, well, how it is that they do what they do, what is it they've done to you, and understand that in cognitive warfare, it is the umbrella, right? Cognitive warfare, neurocognitive warfare. And under that now comes psychological manipulation, dark psychology, manipulation, covert drugging, right? Honey trapping, the use of social media to manipulate, use of technology, screen refresh rate, weaponizing your screen refresh rate of your device, your phone, your tablet, your monitor, to do what is called brain entrainment, right? To hypnotize you, to send you subliminal message. There's many ways they've used technology that we don't understand, right? And so when you begin to understand those things and have a broader knowledge, you may not be an expert in these things. I'm not an expert. I can barely remember some of the shit that I read or I listen to, right? But the things that I've listened to every single day, you know, a little bit more begins to register. You know what I'm saying? Some of it, maybe not. I've been listening to the audiobook MK Tech, Invasion and Mind Control. And when I listen to, it's volume 1 and volume 2, there's so much information in there, right, that I can never remember most of the stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I may have to get the Kindle and start posting some of these things that is said in that book, because when I listen to the audiobook, at the moment I'm listening to it, I'm like, wow. But I get up in the morning after that, so I've been listening to volume 2 for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I went back to volume 1, and then I'll do that for another 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll go back to the other volume before I move on to another book, right? Because that's how long I have to listen to things in order to remember some of the things that is being said, right, in those audiobooks. So like I said, when it comes to my targeting, I remember certain things very well. It's routine. I talk about the brain and brain plasticity, where the brain would shift certain responsibilities to other parts of the brain, right, if it can, right? So, that it doesn't happen in everything, but some things. And like I said, when it comes to my targeting, in terms of you see guys see me sing every single day. If you listen to what I say every single day, it's basically the same shit over and over, right? Because that's what I remember. That's what I can remember. And you hear the New York Predators Department using the sirens, right? So that is what I say. So whenever I remember certain things, they try to put me through these tests, these memory tests, and I remember certain things, it's like, oh yeah, that's okay, yeah, woohoo, there's nothing wrong with him, he's fine, whatever. I keep telling y'all that there is no boundary, there's nothing that they wouldn't do to escape accountability. Even when they know the damage that they've done is non-reversible. Right? They will still try to make you believe, not you the TI, but the dumbass cult followers out there, the dumbass believers, into believing that, well, they say he's fine because he remembered this today, so there's nothing wrong with him and nothing wrong with her. She remembered this today, so they're fine, right? No. Stop letting these people manipulate you all into believing lies. They are the liars. They're the manipulators. They're the deceivers. They are the devils. Understand that. They really are. All right? Talk to you guys in the next video.